As the 2024 EU elections begin, the political landscape across Europe is in flux this election. The first since Brexit will shape the future of the EU with significant implications for member states.
And here to discuss the predictions and implications for Poland and other countries is Karolina Borońska Hryniewiecka, Associate Research Fellow at Université Paris-Panthéon-Sorbonne and also University of Wrocław. Hello, madam, and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning, and thank you very much for the invitation.
So now in Poland, predictions are being closely watched following recent election debate on Wednesday evening. And this debate, well, according to some at least, provided a platform for various political factions to present their stances, of course, particularly in the key issues. We are talking about migration, economic stability, the Green Deal. We had also an interesting part in English there, which for some might be curious and raise eyebrows. But I digress. How do you think has the recent election debate in Poland influenced voter sentiment and predictions for the upcoming EU elections? Do you think it might have changed anything?
Well, first of all, we have to say that we have a lot of homework to do in terms of European education, and this does not go only to Poland. This obviously goes to all member states. After over 70 years of integration, we still don't have a robust European civic education. And when you ask me if anything has changed, I think that the European Union is slowly waking up. Poland also has sped up its information campaign over the last 2 weeks, but this is not enough. Why is it not enough? Because, as you know, Russia is not sleeping, and this information campaign is widespread in all of the EU member states. We have heard about attacks on the websites and fake disinformation websites in France. We know about that in Poland. We know it in Germany. This is very, very strong as well. And when people are prone to this kind of propaganda, when they are not well prepared, when they are not aware how the EU works, how decisions are made, what is the role of the European Parliament? And unfortunately, this knowledge is very, very low. So I am happy that after these 8 years of the rule of right-wing government in Poland, we finally have some sort of public discussion, a credible discussion about the EU. And we are finally trying to refute the myths and the lies and a lot of manipulation about the European Union. So I think we are on a good path. But the question is the European election campaign the time to educate people? Yes and no, because they might feel that this is like imposing the knowledge in a very quick and strong shot, but it should be more systematic.
Well, should the burden doesn't it also lie with the candidates here in this race? Just for full disclosure, I cannot vote in the European Union elections. I'm watching all the parties here in Poland. I don't have any political leanings on one side or the other. But what I do notice, and I see this across the board, is that there's a reluctance to talk about the real issues that are facing us in this election, us Poles, put it that way. And I feel like it's somewhat dishonest by some of the politicians that are vying for positions in the European Parliament, that they are not getting into the real substantive issues that do make a difference and that will have an impact, and are slightly glazing over this, just citing security. These are important, and we can't allow the far right to win these elections. Those are the big headlines that you see in these elections, and I think there's more to it than that. Do you agree?
Definitely, I do agree, and we cannot stop at saying that we have to stop the far right. How to do it? It is precisely what you said. The candidates, the lead figures on whom we are going to vote on Sunday, they need to give us a stake. They need to tell us why we should go on Sunday. Because they're trading their popularity, and the problem is that a lot of this European election is nationalized. We can see it in France. I'm currently based in France, and I'm observing a campaign in France, how different subjects like security, like competitiveness, like fighting disinformation have been nationalized by the far right. And the mainstream is kind of unable to say, no, these are real European problems, and decisions are taken in a transnational way. Otherwise, we're not going to fight it. And the same happens in Poland. It is very rarely for me to hear the candidates actually giving us a stake. They are just saying what I'm going to do or what others are doing bad. And you know, political discourse has to change from criticizing the opponents of actually explaining voters. I mean, me, I'm not a politician, but if I was, I would first explain to the people why it's so important to go. This is important to go because the European Parliament is one of the main, one of the two main lawmakers, legislative institution. 2/3 of domestic law, Polish law, German law, is made in the European Union at the supranational level in co-decision, right? So this is not a facade institution. This is not an institution where people go on holiday. This is our meta-political system. But we don't have it at school. Our kids should learn it in high school already, or even in the primary school, because then they would be much more resistant and much better equipped to read information and not to be fooled by false news.
By politicians vying for a place.
And
also, yeah.
And now, lastly, now when we are looking at this, the rise of political populism and the shift towards now conservative ideologies are prominent themes in this election, also like now Dan mentioned. So given the rise of the wing and Eurosceptic parties across Europe, how do you see this trend impacting the overall composition of European Parliament?
Well, we know, and it's been repeated and repeated, the far right and the right is going to be stronger. And yes, this is true. But also, if we look at the mandate projections in the European Parliament, they're not going to be able to rule. They're not going to be able to form the majority. They might gather around 30% of the European Parliament's potential, but this is still not enough. Now the question is, geometry of mandates versus realpolitik. And in realpolitik, we have already noticed in this mandate of the European Parliament that, for example, part of the EPP, European People's Party, they're turning right in terms of how they vote. That was very visible in a Green Deal negotiations, in the treaty changes proposals, etc. So there might be real policy coalitions more towards the right, despite the fact that we can be sure that the current majority will be the majority again. So two worlds, geometry of votes and the division of mandates, and then the realpolitik.
Well, it certainly is interesting, and I think that's probably one of the more honest conversations that we've had here on TVP World concerning these elections. So thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Of course, Karolina Borońska Hryniewiecka.
A difficult surname, I'm sorry.
It is. I'm trying. Thank you very much for joining us today on TVP World. We appreciate it.